The Ossidon has arrived to ARK, and it's possibly the hardest tame ever. See, the process of taming is straightforward enough, but if you want those perfect 150s, well, brace yourself, it ain't easy. First things first, you'll need to find one, and that's a trip to the snow regions on either the Center, Raasclark, or Valguero. As a temporary tame on these maps until Lost Colony arrives, it feels a bit daunting to see these mini titan-like beasts wandering the white stuff, but don't let the stature fool you. They're surprisingly squishy despite their menace, aggroing to almost everything around them, and you'll be hard-pressed to even manage to isolate one, let alone tame one. Fortunately though, they can be picked up, providing you've got a rhino to hand, but otherwise you'll be left to damage control every wild around before figuring out if it's worth taming. And that part especially is a very unique entry to ARK Ascended. See, for every point in every stat, we'll find specific body parts of the Ossidon enlarged to encompass its size. Melee points decide how big its claws are, weight, how much muscle mass it's flexing, food, its wide set belly, oxygen, the length of its fur, stamina, its head crest size, and health, its overall mass. Obviously a spyglass or tech binoculars will do the job, but it'll explain why some might look just a little bit smaller than the juggernauts you've seen in the trailer. And if you're wondering, yes, they can get even bigger, hitting official cap of 450. Initiating the taming process is as simple as inflicting torpor, so crossbows or long necks will either do fine, with you aiming to hit 50% torpidity inflicted. Once hitting that magic number, your skull-wearing friend will enter into a stun animation and ready to mount and initiate the real challenge. Rolling up its own handmade Snowball will task you with 2 minutes to then proceed to play a game of Katamari, rolling up the required amount of dinos within the time limit. However, every 10 seconds it'll proceed to shoot out 5 icy spikes in its facing direction, of which you'll need to run over to each and collect to attain taming affinity and taming efficiency, alongside continuous Katamari rolling up of creatures around you. But it's not even close to being easy as that. The first hurdle is dino weight. See, any creature above 300 weight will instantly break your Snowball, meaning Utis, mammoths, and woolly rhinos all need to be avoided to not ruin your tame. Your Snowball can only ever hold 5 creatures in at a time for a short period before spitting them out and leaving them on cooldown before being able to Katamari again, and depending on the level you're aiming for will decide how many creatures need to be rolled up, as well as many icicles to pick up within your 2 minutes. If successful, you'll find a perfect 100% taming effectiveness as well as 25% taming affinity, to then inflict torpor once again to 50% and repeat the process again, reducing your taming effectiveness back down to 66% to repeat again, ensuring you complete both your icicle count and Katamari count to refill that effectiveness to max once again. But if you fail to satisfy either of the 2 totals or break your Snowball mid-tame, you'll suffer a heavy loss to both affinity and effectiveness, ruining that otherwise perfect Ossidon tame. And then rolling the wrong weight creatures is the least of your problems. If you hit any wall or wall-like structure, gates and pillars included, that's a broken Snowball. If you get stuck on any dino for more than a few seconds, that's a broken Snowball. If you fall from a moderate height, that's a broken Snowball. In fact, you'll be doing everything you can to keep that ball rolling, and especially away from aggressive wilds. Alongside avoiding those weightier creatures, the Ossidon's turning circle isn't really too great, because, well, it's big, isn't it? So anything aggressive chasing you in the rear will be a nightmare to outrun, and don't forget I mentioned everything aggroes on this thing. And also don't forget, you're meant to be collecting wild-firing icicles the entire time too. So for those high-level Ossidons, this will seem categorically impossible. It just will. But there we go. I think we're going to get our very first 100% taming effectiveness on a... what level was this? 55? And with slow-mo 0.5 just to help us out to make this a lot easier as well. I'm testing with PvE settings now. It was PvP settings, but I was concerned that tame creatures wouldn't work on PvE, so we changed it to PvE. But it does still work with tame creatures. It says you can pick up 10 in the icon. I don't think you can pick a maximum up of 10 at once. There's a limit of how much you can carry at once, and then it won't pick up any more. But we've got to get 10 done, and that's perfectly tamed. 82. I think it was 50. Was it level 50? Right, that's that figured out. Fortunately, someone had the bright idea to allow you to use your tamed creatures to roll up instead of wilds, and whilst this might seem like a blessing, it's still a real challenge for that max 150. Building traps or bizarre pit bowls isn't the answer, believe me, I've tried. So your best bet is to find a nice secluded flat, or better yet, natural ramp included area that's well away from wilds, like well away. The rate these things die is phenomenal. Then the tame of your choosing is really what you've got to hand that you think is tanky enough, remembering you'll need to inflict torpor between each round whilst it's going berserk, as well as speedy enough to keep up, but not too speedy to get behind the Ossidon too quickly, as well as something that's big enough to catch, but not too big to stop the Ossidon in its tracks. And believe me, we tried a lot. Turtles seem to be the go-to, being cheap enough, but every now and then did block our Ossidon. Dodes had about the same effect, but a little easier to navigate over. Trying pass-through shoulder flyers like dimorphs or vultures kind of works, but you'll often find them following too closely or not close enough. Raptors, bats, and yeah, even Phoenix tried with not too hot results, excuse the pun. But with some cheesing ideas such as Iguanas carrying babies to not count their saddled creatures, I thought that would be a good idea. They anti-proofed that one. Microraptors came pretty close, being fast and able to pass over, but a bit just too small to catch sometimes, with honestly the best results for me being trikes. Big enough not to miss and just about the right speed to keep up without being behind you worked pretty well. However, when it comes to taming a 150, your accuracy needs to be pinpoint perfect. Needing to make sure to roll up 5 instantly and constantly keep 5 in your ball at all times, whilst chasing the 50 icicles the entire time in a constant back and forth motion, and remembering you'll need to do that as perfect 4 times in a row is not easy. Honestly, you may be better off just going for a slightly lower level to drop that requirement number down a touch. And worth noting, this is day 1 of attempting to tame one, so you know, who knows, maybe some new method is yet to be figured out. But I think for once, possibly, Wildcard decided to give us a real challenge where only the skilled players may be coming away with that magic 150 perfect tame. Oh, little side note by the way, until Lost Colony arrives, these won't be breedable, folks, so you'll be waiting till then to pop out those Ossidon babies, and abilities, well, we'll be taking a proper deep dive look at these soon, so watch this space. Until then, my name is Raasclark. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe, and as always, peace out.